Oh man, this bakery is great, and why would you look at that, they even have some whole wheat stuff over there too. This place is awesome. Oh, hi guys, I didn't see you there. Anyway, hello! Welcome back to our weekly Jujutsu Kaisen discussion video. Today we're going to be talking all about episode 13 tomorrow, but before we get into that, quick reminder if you haven't done so yet, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, and let all of AniTube know that you're here. So with that said, what do you guys say we go ahead and dig into this week's episode, and, you know, while we look around at all the goods in this bakery. Look, man, it was either this or Mahito's domain, and there was no way in hell I was going there. Okay, so enough about baked goods for now. We'll talk about it again in a little bit. What do you say we go ahead and talk about Nanami and Itadori versus Mahito? I likely made Itadori and Mahito the thumbnail, even though this episode is really like Nanami focused at a specific point. Like, you can tell that this episode was like a few different chapters pushed together. But at no point did it feel rushed. Like, by the time the episode ended, I was so curious to check if maybe the episode was double length. Not because it necessarily felt like it, but just because by the time it had ended, I looked at my notes and I realized just how much stuff had happened. So I was like, there's no way they managed to get that all into 24 minutes and have it not feel rushed, right? So, like, I have to double check. It must have been, like, a 48-minute episode and I just didn't notice. No. It was like a regular episode, but they managed to cram in so much material for each of these three characters. Itadori gets a lot, Nanami gets a lot, Mahito gets a lot. We get some wrap up with Junpei. We get the Jujutsu scroll with friggin' Fushiguro at the end. Like, a lot happens here. And it's not just like little things. As I said, like, Nanami gets a flashback we'll get into in a sec. Itadori deals with a lot of stuff. Mahito, like, basically has his first brush with potentially dying. It's a lot. And I think one of the things that particularly had me invested was the fact that they killed my boy. You know, like, that and I was holding out hope that maybe there was something they could do to save him. But a lot of people in the comments were like, bruh, you know as well as we do that he's dead. Like, that was it. He's gone. And I was like, no, I refuse. But yeah, they even opened by showing like Junpei's body, you know, and I'm like, bro, don't show me that. don't show me that. Don't show me that. And like, it's to me just insane. And I'm sure all of this conversation is probably being thrown off by the fact that I'm likely using the screenshot of Mahito as spikes just because it made me laugh. So that's the screenshot I'm going to use, because otherwise this is going to get very heavy, because this episode is very heavy and deals with a lot. And I have to put up Mahito turning into friggin' Kirby spikes, because that's the only thing that's going to make me feel better. Because again, I was like, bro, don't show me Junpei's body. That's not something, not even like Junpei's regular body. No, Junpei's morphed, messed up body. Like, bro, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. My emotions are already at an 11, dude. I don't need to be there. I don't need to be in that moment. So when we cut to them, like, in the midst of the fight, I'm very relieved, right? And then this track starts to play. And it's this, like, cool, like, guitar, like this, like, badass guitar tune plays. And I will say this, right? I've seen a lot of people argue which soundtrack is better, either Kaisen or Tower of God. Now, not to bury the lead or anything, but I realized after this week's episode that Jujutsu Kaisen's my anime of the year, even though I already voted in the anime of the year. Like, I already voted for what my anime of the year was in the Annie Awards, but this episode did kind of like snatch that. To me, it's between this and Tower of God. I really enjoyed the first season of Tower of God, and one of the strongest parts of that was the soundtrack. And while I do think that Tower of God has the better soundtrack, I do think that there's tracks in this show that just like hit, and the track that plays for Itadori and Nanami versus Mahito just hits, right? Like, it hits about as hard as Itadori hits Mahito in the face later, and god damn, that was satisfying. But yeah, that track absolutely slays, and seeing Mahito as Kirby spikes was absolutely hilarious. I don't know why that made me laugh as hard as it did, but it really did. And you know what I mean by Kirby spikes, right? Like, when like Kirby does like the big spiky move in like a lot of Kirby games, it looks just like that. Like, it looks just like Mahito. And even, like, the way the face comes out, like, his face comes out like he's Mirio or something, like, phasing through or something. And I was like, this is very Kirby. Like, this is, like, sadistic Kirby. You know, this is like Kirby from There Will Be Brawl or something. That's who Mahito is to me. And again, like, it's true, Mahito's very sadistic, right? Like, even in this fight, like, Itadori and Nanami, like, really bring it to him. And even though Mahito has them, like, sort of on the defensive at first, they do eventually, like, whoopeth that ass, right? But before we get to that point, we have the transfigured humans, right? And, like, Mahito basically knows that Itadori won't attack him if he uses the transfigured humans, because he knows that he won't kill the humans that he has. And he tells them, like, go kill the short-haired kid. And so they go to attack him, and you get that moment where Itadori, like, has one of them up, like, and he has them by the throat, and they're saying things to him like, let's play, or, like, please kill me, which is, like, very disturbing. And again, like, this show can be very twisted. Like, we've talked about this before. Okay, so there's things in other shonen series that I can think of that are, like, mean-spirited that the villains do, right? Where there's something that just, like, makes your, like just turns your blood cold, makes your stomach curdle, right? Like, just things that are truly despicable. You do see that in a lot of shonen series, but there's something about the way that Kaisen does it. There's something about the straight-up cruelty on display, and the fact that Mahito straight up uses transmogrifies these these humans and sends them after Itadori, knowing he won't kill them. And they say things to him that are just so disturbing that it's like, bruh, Kaisen just hits different when it comes to its antagonists. I will say, Mahito being this sort of, like, curse character, right, where he doesn't necessarily want for anything. It's not like he has this, like, incredible backstory, at least not yet, but he is just this, like, embodiment of human malice and cruelty, and that isn't, like, necessarily as maybe engaging as some other villains who are more sort of, like, human and, like, you understand why they're doing what they're doing. With Mahito, he's just a crazy curse. And yet, at the same time, that's not a negative. You know what I mean? Like, he's not... To me, he's, like, a perfect example of the force of nature villain, right? He reminds me a lot of the Joker, where, like, you don't get it. Like, you don't fully understand. Joker is a curse in the same way that Mahito is, you know? Like, he's just this embodiment of a human... a negative human trait. And, like, they both are, Joker and Mahito. And the fact that I'm a comic book fan, comparing Mahito positively to the Joker should tell you something, because he really does remind me of him in a lot of ways, especially by the end of the episode, but we'll get to it. But yeah, like, he has Nanami in this position and he calls him a fool, but Nanami's like, no, the only fool I see here is you, because he is a Jujutsu sorcerer, right? And he is about to whoopeth that ass. And they do, in fact, whoopeth that ass. I've probably had this screenshot up the whole time. I didn't even care that I was talking about the transfigured humans, because A, I don't want to show that, because I don't think YouTube will let me, because it's gross. But B, I just had to show this beatdown the whole time, so you know that even though I am praising him as a villain, he is one of those perfect characters who he is a love to hate, right? And I was like, Mahito, you killed my boy. And for that, you need this ass whooping. You need to die is what you need, but you need this whoopeth of that ass. Like, he needs to be so... Like, Mahito needs to be beaten so bad his children will be born bruised. You know what I mean? Like, he needs to get his ass kicked in the highest regard. Unfortunately, in this episode, there's points where I would if I didn't know, I would have assumed that he was probably going to die here. Unfortunately, and I've been seeing this, right? I said last week or the week before that I've been very lucky. Jujutsu Kaisen fans haven't really spoiled me on anything. Some douche in the comments was like, they're not gonna kill Mahito next episode, just so you know. And it's like, bruh, don't do that. Like, don't do that. Because, like, I would have maybe thought that. Like, in that moment, I would have been like, oh, they could have got him. Like, I would have been more engaged, but I knew he wasn't gonna die. So it's like, damn it, like, I wanted to see them, like, exercise Mahito and just kill him. But I will settle for them whooping that ass. The only thing is, Mahito uses this moment to be like, well, if this is death, then I'm just gonna try this move I've been holding off for a while, and he uses domain expansion, and it's very handsy. His domain is called the self-embodiment of perfection, which is a little perfect selly to me, but that's what he calls it. And this triggers the first of two things that we're going to talk about in regards to the end of the fight. And that is Nanami's reason for living. In this moment, Nanami is stuck in the domain expansion, and I'm like, oh shit, my boy better have a damn good plan to get out of this. And we see him inside there, and he's like, okay, so I'm pretty much screwed. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, wait, what? Nope, no, nothing's allowed to happen to Nanami. No. And Nanami explains, like, I don't think Nanami can use domain expansion just by the way that he was talking, because he says, like, I could never quite figure it out or something like that. So I don't think he can use domain expansion. And in this moment, he says, like, if everything here is hands, and domain expansion is basically going to let you, it's a guaranteed hit. I'm basically in the palm of his hand, I'm dead, right? And then we get this flashback, and I remember thinking to myself, I swear to G, I swear to Haruhi Suzumiya, if this is leading up to Nanami dying, I'ma be pissed, right? Because I couldn't help but think of, like, Demon Slayer, where, like, anytime a character is getting, like, a big emotional flashback, they're probably not gonna make it, right? And so I'm like, what's happening? And we see this big flashback for Nanami, and I'm like, no, right? Like, no. I know this shonen trope. I specifically, like, zeroed in on Demon Slayer because that's the thing that is, like, the most recent that did it the most, right? The show that is the most recent that did that kind of thing the most, where you get a big flashback if something sad's about to happen. And so, like, I'm not just zeroing in on Demon Slayer, it's just that's what came to mind. This is very much a shonen thing, and I love it, right? Because I love it and I hate it, because it gets you, like, nervous when you see the flashback, because you're excited to learn more about this character you really like, but at the same time you're also like, oh god, please no. And as this is happening, I couldn't help it. Like, the whole time they're talking about, or they're showing rather, Nanami's past as a suit, right? Like, working for this company, as he says, taking money from the wealthy and getting them more money in return. And it's like, I should be paying attention, but right now I'm too busy, like, literally curled up in my chair going, no. And I realized how much I love Nanami in that moment, right? So I'm like, no. And thank God it does not go the way that we thought, right? So I was like, or at least the way that I thought. I don't know about you guys. If anybody in the comments felt the same, let me know, because I was like, man, I was so nervous. And like, no, right? That had me very nervous. But I do, outside of the nerves, I did manage to see some parts of that flashback. And by some parts, I do mean all of it. Yes, I'm kind of being hyperbolic. I did pay attention, but I was nervous. And it's just interesting to me how money-focused Nanami was in the past. And he was, like, willing to let this curse go, just, like, sort of be stuck on this girl. And he did say, like, it's mostly harmless, right? So, like, I'll just let it go. I don't want her to think I'm some sort of weird, freaky medium or something like that. And he just lets it go, and he's so focused on his job and this, like, and his money and all this stuff. And we knew he was like this, right? Like, he explained that he was like that in the past, but I didn't know it was, like, this deep. You know, that like, he literally just repeats money for, like, a minute, right? And I'm not gonna lie, hearing Kenjiro Suda talk in general is always a good time, but hearing him say money over and over again may have gotten may have gotten me sort of all hot and bothered. No, but it may have been, like, kind of dope, right? But at the same time, it sort of broke my heart that that's where he was. Like, he just felt like he was in a rut, right? And he felt like he had no reason for living. And then he talks to the baker about it. like he goes back to the bakery and he talks to her about it, and it sort of sinks in for him that like he, like at his old job as a sorcerer, like he at least had people say thank you when he helped them. Like he doesn't really get that here, you know? Like he doesn't really feel like he's doing anything for the greater good. At least that's the vibe that I got. That like he just didn't feel satisfied where he was. Like it didn't feel as satisfying as saving lives, you know? Like helping people fight off these curses. And so he is talking to the baker about it, and he destroys that curse for her, right? Like he exercises the curse, and all of a sudden the pain in her shoulder goes away. And you can almost see his spirits lift too, right? Like in the moment that they're both talking, the baker is sort of feeling a bit of a pain in her shoulder, and she's not sleeping very well. And then Nanami also just has not been sleeping well. Like this has been eating at him. Like this life that he leads is like, it's empty and hollow, and that's really starting to dig at him. So when he does this for her, he just sort of like takes his sandwich and leaves, and the baker just calls out to him and says thank you, and he keeps walking because he's too cool, and cool guys don't look at explosions, but they also don't look back when somebody says thank you, I guess. But she's like, she's like, can you hear me? I said thank you. And Nanami is just like, thank you, huh? And it really sinks in for him that that's his reason for living. Like he wants to help people and get that thank you moment. And so he calls up Gojo, and it's really cute. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, oh, is this a ship? I had no idea. Like, okay, Gojo and Nanami, sure, why not? But it was super sweet. I was like, the fact that he calls up Gojo and Gojo laughs, right? Because he's like, you could tell Gojo's like, I'm so glad you're coming back. And I'm sure you probably said something cocky, like, I knew I'd see you again or some shit, like knowing Gojo. I missed Gojo. I feel like, I know he's been in episodes, but it feels like it's been longer than it really has. But yeah, it's crazy to me, just that whole flashback ending with Nanami saying, like, you don't have to thank me. When Mahito says, like, I should really thank you for, like, showing me that I could do this, that I could use domain expansion, like, I should thank you. Nanami's like, you don't have to thank me. I've gotten thanked by tons of people before you. I have no regrets. And I'm like, this man was okay with going out. Like, that's insane to me, that he was okay with dying. That's absolutely insane. But again, who's in the thumbnail? Is it Nanami? No, even though I wish he was. No, it's Itadori and Mahito, because at the end of the day, that's who the fight really was between. Nanami was there for the assist, and we appreciate it, but Mahito killed our boy's boy, and that will not stand. So Itadori breaks into the domain expansion, which I thought was a big deal, but Nanami's like, of course, because it's actually weaker on the outside. I'm like, oh, don't take away from my boy's moment. Right? I was like, oh, don't tell me that right now. Tell me that later. Right now, I'm just kind of impressed. And when Itadori breaks in, Mahito looks horrified, and it took me a second to realize why. Right? Because I'm like, what's the big deal? Like, it's Itadori. Like, I'm excited that he's here so he can whoop that ass. But, like, he's still in your domain. I don't know why you're upset. And, oh, right. Yeah, I'm probably showing him on screen now. Yeah, Sukuna is like, hey, what did I tell you about touching me? Right? And it's like, oh, bruh. All I have in my notes is just bruh. Because it is vicious what happens. And I can't show you what he does to Mahito. You can go watch the episode over on Crunchyroll. Not a sponsor, but Crunchyroll, if you want to sponsor your boy, you know, you can. But yeah, this was like the biggest bruh moment, because I was like, holy crap. Like, Sukuna turns him into a fountain. It's vicious. Like, it is vicious. There's a reason why he is the king of curses. I'll just say that. Right? And when he has that line of like, whether you die or you die doesn't matter. Aside from him, I truly don't care. And it's like, bro, what is so... Okay, like, a part of me is like, I know what's special about Fushiguro. because he's my good boy. You know what I mean? I know that Fushiguro is special because he's my adorable boy. And he's also very clearly bi. Come at me, weird Crunchyroll subber who made it so that he was interested in his sister, you freak. In the original manga, and I'm never this guy, but in the original manga, when asked what his favorite type of woman is, he just says, the person that I would be most interested in would have to be like a strong personality or whatever the hell it was that he said. But he doesn't say she or my girl. He says they. And I'm like, bruh, the fact that he says they, Fushiguro, my bi boy. So I know what's special about him. I know that he's great. But why does Sukuna care? Right? Because I'm like, why do you care? Right? Like, and we know that in the episode where Sukuna was like fighting with Fushiguro in the jail, he says like, you could have done more. Why did you run? Right? Like, so it's like, okay, there's something about Fushiguro that we know Sukuna finds special. I assume it's something to do with his particular brand of sorcery. But like, I don't know what it is. And I want to know, but at the same time, I'm anime only. Because y'all know I find manga to be kind of boring. So I ain't gonna read it. So I'm just gonna be patient. And maybe it's not. Maybe we don't even know by now. I don't know. Maybe at the current point in the manga, we still don't know. I don't know. But when he says like, aside from him, and he's thinking of Fushiguro, it's like, I didn't know that he had this much of an interest in him. So what in the high hell is that special? Like, I thought he'd be talking about like Itadori. Like, Itadori can't die because if Itadori dies, I die, and that ain't happening. Like, so the fact that he's talking about Fushiguro is like, that's very interesting. And then this, as I said, he turns Mahito into a fountain. And my autocorrect changed Mahito into Mojito, just so you know. Don't know why I told you that. Might edit that out. In fact, no, I'm not going to. Autocorrect, please stop turning Mahito into Mojito, please. But Mahito escapes, and I'm like, damn, right? Because at the same time, it's like, that would have been an absolute gut punch if I didn't already know it's coming. Thank you, manga fans. Well, not thank you, manga fans. Most of you have been very good. It was just that one dude. So again, y'all know, manga fans, what do we do on this channel when we know things from the manga that us anime onlys don't want to know about just yet? We do asterisks, laughs in manga, or cries in manga, whatever you want to do. Something blank in manga. It can, from now on, instead of laughs in manga, let's do blanks in manga, right? That should be a t-shirt, just blank in manga, asterisks. Okay? That's what we do. So from now on, don't do that, because this spoiled it for me. Like, I know it's not a big spoiler, and I'm not going to complain about it anymore, but like, that would have been great to have that moment of like, he got away, you know, but I knew the whole episode he was going to get away. But yeah, I've definitely been rambling a lot. Like, I've been going on, and like, I have to wrap up the video here because like, I've been going on for way too long, but I just want to quickly talk about some wrap up stuff. Mahito knowing that he can't kill Itadori, so instead settling for killing Itadori's soul broke my heart, because it's like, he knew that Junpei was gonna kill my boy's soul, but it also terrifies me because it's like, what's he gonna do next? Like, who's he gonna go after next that could hurt Itadori's soul? You know, like, that has me concerned. And then there's the whole conversation at the end of the episode between Nanami and Itadori, talking about what is a proper death. And Nanami says, like, you know what? Like, in truth, it'd be great if good people died proper deaths and villains were put in their place. But, like, at the end of the day, humans aren't black and white. Like, things aren't necessarily clear cut. There is no real, like, good, fully good, evil, fully evil. Like, that doesn't exist. So dealing out proper deaths for every individual isn't something I would recommend, but you're gonna do it anyway, aren't you? Right? And Nanami just knew, right? Because Nanami's like, you're gonna do it anyway. And you can do it, and I have faith in you because you're a Jujutsu sorcerer. And I was like, he acknowledged him as a Jujutsu sorcerer. Like, this to me is like, that's the first time he straight up called him that to his face, right? And I'm like, that is very nice to have that moment, because don't forget, like, when they meet, he says, like, I haven't acknowledged you as a sorcerer just yet. So to have that moment, it's bittersweet, because Itadori is explaining, like, I killed somebody today, right? And it's like, damn, like he's talking about those transfigured humans, and it's like, oh, it's so sad. It's so sad. And then as that's happening, we get like the school doing a survey on bullying, and I'm like, yo, a little too little too late, dog. But at the same time, I'm glad that they're reflecting. But to me, it was the insert song that plays. It's like, but I'll survive, and then like that, like, I'll survive, like those lyrics alone, and I'm like, bro, I'm not okay right now. Don't do this. I'm already like still in my emotions right now. And then Itadori saying like, I won't lose again, and then the ED plays, and you're like, bruh, like everything about that end scene was perfect. From like from the Mahito hype up for like the next time Mahito's gonna show up, to Nanami and Itadori's talk about death, to that whole "but I'll survive" insert song at the end. Everything was dope. It absolutely, like I said it earlier in the episode, I will repeat it. To me, anime of the year was between this and Tower of God, and this episode, this episode really did make a play to be like, yeah, this. I understand why everybody is like so in love with this show, and I've been in love with the show, but I was like, is it anime of the year? And it's like, no, at the very least, it's between those two. And for me, anyway, I don't know about you. I'm not saying what yours is. I'm just saying what mine is, because I don't know what yours is. But for me, it's between this and Tower of God. Like, my two favorite shows of the whole friggin' year, and it's been a weird year, but the fact that we got two shows that just... or the fact that I got two shows that hit me as hard as these two do, that makes me very happy. And that whole scene at the end too, where they straight up show you how to make Itadori's legacy. Ah, man, I'm gonna try that. I might try that. If we hit 25K before the end of the year, I will make Itadori's legacy. I can't eat it though, because I have a condition called GERD, so I can't eat most of the ingredients in that. But maybe I can make it for my family. I don't know. Whew, okay, so that was a long one. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to boop that up, snooch, share. If you care, leave a comment down below. And of course, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell, set notifications to all, and let all of AniTube know that you're here. And of course, before we go, as always, I want to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people. Look at all these beautiful names. And hey, if you would like to join these beautiful people, there are now two ways to do that. The first is by hitting that Patreon link in the description, and the second is by hitting that join button right beside the sub button to get a badge next to your name, some emotes to spam in the comments, and of course, your name scrolling past the screen here. So, if that sounds cool to you, go ahead and hit that join button, or check out the Patreon link. Either way, it is super appreciated. And with that said, everybody, that is going to wrap up today's video here. At the time of recording, it is Christmas Day, so I'm going to go relax. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Sorry this went on for so long. This is almost very old school. This is very old school. This is very JoJo, old, like, deep thoughts. JoJo talks too much. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, you stay classy, and you wash your dang hands.